joined the largest advertising agency in Phoenix as a content strategist. Stoked, so excited, finally felt where I needed to be, felt like I was where I needed to be. And I had this opportunity to lead a huge new website, and I was the sole strategist and the writer for it. Unfortunately, it was for a client that was sort of out of my area of expertise. It was a sports equipment client, and I was grateful for the opportunity, but it definitely wasn't something that fired me up. I pushed through. I should have raised the red flags. I had massive writer's block, like the absolute first time I genuinely experienced writer's block. Instead of handing it over, instead of calling it off, I just pushed through and tried to be the hero, turned in that content. And the feedback on it was the harshest feedback I have ever received. The client came back and said that it sounded like diner menu copy. And that stung, and that still stings. And it's hard to admit, but knowing and looking back and reflecting on what got me to that failure point in the first place, and knowing that I should have raised those red flags, I should have transitioned that content over to a writer that loved the project. Those are things that I have carried with me the rest of my career and continue to use in my toolbox to position myself for success.
So I remember when I was working at a publisher content studio for a news organization, and we worked with a client that was very set in their ways about what they thought branded content should be. And they felt that the brand needed to be incredibly present. We needed big logos and only sources that worked at the company. The footage needs to be a talking head video that's 17 minutes long with, so-and-so from the engineering team. And I tried my best to say that, I don't think this is going to work the way you want it to. I don't think this is going to be engaging. And I lost. I didn't win that conversation. And it went out the way that they wanted it to, and it didn't perform. And I think what I learned after that is that sometimes I need to push harder. And it's very hard in a sales context when, especially as a content strategist, it's not my sale. They're not my clients. So it feels like there should be a barrier there of controlling that relationship and respecting those clients for our sales team. But I do think it's my responsibility to push harder to really help them create content that's going to perform the way they want. I think that it was more comfortable for me maybe to give in at a certain point and be like, this is a lost cause. We'll just chalk this one up to filling the bottom line and that's it. But I look back and I think there's probably ways I could have pushed a little bit harder and maybe helped that content be a little bit more of its best self.
The biggest failure that I've really had, and it was personal for me in a way. But so I wrote a book called The Content Formula to try to answer this question, what's the ROI of content marketing? And I would see executives and CMOs would cross their arms and kind of look at me like, what's the ROI of content marketing, Michael? I'm not doing, we need to do ads and brand awareness programs. And so I answered the question with the book. What I learned when I went back to some of the folks I sent it to was that they still weren't doing content marketing. And so the mistake that I made was the business case, the cultural element of redefining what marketing really is, that it's a strategic business asset, has to come before the actual math and the calculations that get to ROI. The math isn't enough. We need to get to people's we need to use fear in a way to say the competition is doing it, the market has changed, the overall business landscape is being disrupted. We need to start engaging people, and that's going to drive results. That business case needs to be continuously sold through by marketers.